Hello and welcome to Pacific Dialogue. I'm your host, Wen Han. At a time of growing global uncertainty, from rising geopolitical tensions to shifting economic dynamics, the international system appears to be undergoing profound changes. Questions around war and peace, great power competition, and the future of the global order are becoming increasingly urgent. How should we understand these developments and where might the world be heading next? To explore these issues, we are joined today by Haiphong, a geopolitical commentator and journalist who has long followed U.S. foreign policy, China's development, and the evolving dynamics of the global South. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And ceasefire talks between U.S. and Iran ended without an agreement. And what do you think will happen?
Well, it seems like what the United States is going to do, and the Trump administration has been incredibly consistent about this one point, which is chaos. So right now, the Trump administration doesn't really know what to do. The ceasefire was really a byproduct of the fact that the U.S. needed a break. They were running out of missile interceptors. They were running out of the standoff munitions. And the global economy was in crisis. The oil prices were raising over 100, 115, close to 140, $50 a barrel, especially for Brent crude. That has led to astronomical increases in prices in the US and across the world. Crisis for countries that depend on the Strait of Hormuz, like the Philippines, Australia, etc. So the Trump administration has lost a lot of prestige in the world because of this war. So they needed a break. It seems like we are getting some rumblings of the U.S. is willing to extend a ceasefire, mainly because I think they're scared, the U.S. is. Trump, Vance, Hegseth to some degree, although it's hard with Hegseth because he's such a fanatic in many ways. But I think the United States administration is afraid of the consequences of what will happen if they restart the war fully. So we're likely going to see more of this. More Truth Social posts from Trump saying how powerful the U.S. is, how much they've destroyed Iran. And I think they're going to attempt to extend it because if the U.S. and if Israel start to strike Iran again, they're going to have to make good, because they expressed it to the world, on their promise to target Iranian oil infrastructure, bridges, gas, this sort of thing. And that will send the global economy into panic. It'll send Wall Street, the markets, oil into a huge crisis, and that will lead to just further degradation of Trump's standing and then the Republican Party's standing. And it's a cascading. It's like we say in the US, SHIT rolls downhill. It would just be more of that rolling downhill for the Trump administration. So I think they're going to try to keep the pause going, because without that, Iran has already demonstrated it can fight a war for a long time. I think even just in the last day or so, the IRGC said, we have the capacity to respond in ways that are unimaginable. We have new weapons that we haven't even unveiled. That, to the United States, is a big concern, because if Iran is able to take this war months, years, we're looking at not just a completely different world, which I believe we're in right now, but we're also looking at a crisis that the United States, as this empire, as this financial and military hegemon, wasn't ready for, and it would be difficult to predict how it would respond to that. It would be a very difficult reaction to control, especially the panic part of it.
So what are the objectives of these two countries?
For the United States, the objective is quite clear. The objective is to destroy Iran. It's to get rid of Iran's capacity to develop itself and be part of a world that is fundamentally different from the United States, creating an alternative to U.S. hegemony, to the monopoly of military and economic corporate power. This is what the United States wants to destroy for Iran. So at first they wanted regime change, but regime change is not possible in Iran at this point, and likely not for the foreseeable future. So the purpose for the war for the United States has failed. They haven't achieved the objectives. Israel has not achieved the objective, which was to weaken Iran, to destroy it, to ensure that it posed no alternative to U.S. interests and Israeli interests in the region. Now, for Iran, in this war, really, number one, it's for survival. I think what Iran really wants is it wants to utilize the power that it has gained through the Strait of Hormuz, through the demonstration of its military power, through its ability to show the world what it can really do. They want to make it so the world understands that Iran is a very important player and that the world has to cooperate with Iran fairly and justly, the entire world, so that Iran can meet its own needs and interests, and so that the global economy and development and all of that happens regularly without interference. What the Western mainstream media has been really panicking about is this idea of Iran as a global power. And I think Iran is trying to embrace that, not because it wants to dictate terms in any kind of oppressive way, but it's because that power gives it more leverage and gives it the ability to achieve, as I said earlier, that number one goal, which is to live another day. And to not just live, but to ensure that you're living well, you're thriving, you're actually making progress amid what has been a devastating losses for Iran in terms of human life and in infrastructure. And they want to rebuild that fast, and they want to build the capacity for this to never happen again.
If there any side is in the upper hand.
Iran has been able to demonstrate that their model, their approach to war is superior to how the United States, how Israel, and how these Gulf countries approached it, which was essentially to try to go to full-scale war, but do so with all these limited resources that they had, and this idea of U.S. hegemony in the region, meaning that it had to have bases and other kinds of structures, aircraft, all of this just sitting there, unable to defend it, that Iran had been studying that for quite some time. The big concern, I think, in the next 10 to 30 years will be, what does the U.S. elite do, especially those who are on the more fanatical end of the political spectrum. There are forces in the U.S. Among the elite who are far more, let's say, in a holy war kind of mood, right? They view this as an existential crisis, not just economically, but like to their very existence. So the more leverage that forces like that get, the more unstable this idea of MAD, mutually assured destruction, becomes. And I think we are headed toward a moment where the more powerful an alternative to the U.S. empire becomes, the more destructive it will want to be in stopping it, the more limited its options will be at the same time. It's a bit of a toxic combination. Like, I think that will really test the idea of mutually assured destruction because, a desperate empire is a dangerous empire.